The countdown was still playing on the TV when my stepfather Rick tapped his glass with a spoon. The sharp clink cut through conversation. Everyone turned. My mom's smile tightened at the edges. Rick's eyes landed on me like a spotlight I couldn't escape. "Let's be honest here," he said, grinning like he was about to tell the joke of the year. "Emily, you don't matter anymore." A couple of his friends laughed. Too loud, too fast. Like they'd been waiting for permission to find me ridiculous. My half-brother snorted into his beer like it was the funniest thing he'd heard all night. My mother didn't say a word, just smoothed her napkin in her lap and looked at her plate. I felt my throat close up. That hot pressure behind my eyes that meant tears were coming if I didn't control myself. But I lifted my own glass and took a slow sip of champagne that tasted like nothing. The room waited for my reaction, for tears, for anger, for me to make a scene that would ruin the night. Rick leaned closer, his cologne overwhelming. He whispered just loud enough for me to hear. "And don't embarrass your mother by getting emotional." I stood in the bathroom with the faucet running so no one would hear me breathe too hard. My hands gripped the counter until my knuckles went white. My name is Emily Harper. I'm 34 years old, an American, the easy one. The daughter who apologizes first so the night doesn't get ruined. The one who smooths over tension and keeps peace no matter what it costs. But my job had taught me something important over the years. People don't fear feelings. They fear paper trails. Documentation. Evidence that can't be explained away. I'm a compliance and risk manager for a healthcare insurance company. I write reports that decide what gets escalated to authorities and what gets buried quietly. I know how power works. I know how to build cases. I looked at myself in the mirror. Mascara slightly smudged, face pale, eyes too bright. And I decided something that felt like ice settling in my chest. I wouldn't fight him, wouldn't correct him, wouldn't argue or defend myself. I would just stop saving them. My phone buzzed. A text from my mom in the other room. "Please just be nice tonight." I walked back out with my mascara fixed and my face perfectly calm. Rick was already holding court again, talking about family loyalty, like he hadn't just publicly humiliated me 30 seconds earlier. He threw an arm around my mom and pulled her close. She leaned into him the way she always did. Grateful. Dependent. "Some people should be grateful they have a roof at all," Rick said, looking directly at me. "Some people forget where they'd be without family support." I'd been paying my own rent since I was 22. Hadn't asked him for a dime in 12 years. But the people in this room didn't know that. They just nodded along. My mother laughed softly. Not because it was funny, because that's what she did to survive. Laughed at his jokes, agreed with his opinions, made herself smaller so he felt bigger. I kept my smile thin and polite, raised my glass slightly. "Happy New Year," I said. Rick's eyebrows lifted. He looked pleased, like I'd passed some test. "Good," he said, leaning back in his chair like a king. "Then you won't mind helping me with something next week." 3 days later, my mom called during my lunch break. Her voice was sweet in that careful way that meant Rick was nearby listening. "Honey, Rick has an opportunity," she said. "A big one. He just needs you to take a look at a few forms. You're so good at that kind of thing." I set down my sandwich. "Forms for what?" A pause. Papers rustling. "A vendor contract, medical related. You'll understand it better than we would." My stomach dropped. That was my world. Compliance, vendors, risk assessment, the exact area where my professional reputation lived. What kind of vendor? I don't know all the details. Rick handles the business side. He just needs your expertise, professional opinion. I heard Rick's voice in the background, muffled but clear. "Tell her it's not optional." My mom's voice got smaller. "Emily, please, it would really help us, help him. You know how important this is." "I'll look at it," I said. But my hand was already shaking as I hung up. At work the next day, an email hit my inbox with a red flag. Urgent. Third-party vendor review. A new subcontractor tied to a regional clinic network. The kind of contract that required careful vetting because of federal healthcare regulations. I opened the attached packet and the name made my eyes sting. Stonebrook Consulting. Rick's side business. The one he'd been bragging about for months. The one that was about to explode and make him rich. I scrolled through the intake documents. Missing key disclosures, incomplete insurance information, vague descriptions of services that should have been specific. Red flags everywhere. My director pinged me on instant message. This vendor is politically sensitive. Clinic board member recommended them. Keep the review clean but thorough. Politically sensitive, which meant someone with influence wanted this pushed through. I stared at Rick's company name on my screen and realized he'd been setting this up for weeks, maybe months. That weekend, my mom invited me to Sunday dinner. The table was set nicer than usual. Good plates, cloth napkins. Rick wore his impressing people cologne that gave me a headache. Mid-meal, he slid a folder toward me across the table. Just tell me what to sign, he said casually. You're the paperwork girl. Paperwork girl. Like my career was secretarial work. Like my compliance certifications were just filing skills. I opened the folder slowly. It wasn't just standard vendor forms. It was a request to list my name as an official compliance contact for Stonebrook Consulting. My title. My work email. My professional credentials. Using me as a reference without asking. Using my reputation to legitimize his business. This makes it official, Rick said, smiling. Professional, legitimate. My mom was watching me with hopeful eyes. Please don't make this difficult. I flipped through the pages, saw where he'd already filled in my information, forged my initials on preliminary documents. Rick leaned back, confident. If you're on it, nobody can mess with me. You're the expert, right? The compliance queen. He smiled. Your name makes me bulletproof. I closed the folder gently and slid it back across the table. I can't do that, I said, keeping my voice level. Rick's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Why not? Conflict of interest. It's company policy. I can't be listed as a compliance contact for a vendor my company is reviewing. My mom's face drained of color. Emily? It's not personal. It's ethics regulations. Rick set his fork down. His eyes went cold in that way that meant the nice version of him was disappearing. So now you're too good for family. It's not about being too good. It's about following rules that could cost me my job. Your job. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You act like you're so important, like you're irreplaceable. My mom reached across the table toward me. Honey, maybe you could just... She could just help her family, Rick interrupted. But she won't, because Emily only cares about Emily. He leaned back, studying me, then added softly, almost gently, careful. Jobs come and go. Family is supposed to be forever. Monday morning, HR scheduled a sudden check-in meeting. No explanation. Just a calendar invite marked urgent. My pulse raced the entire walk down the hallway. I'd never been called to HR for anything. My record was spotless. The rep smiled too professionally when I sat down. Nothing serious, she said. We received an anonymous concern about potential conflicts of interest regarding your impartiality on vendor reviews. Anonymous. My blood went cold. Concern from who? She slid a printed screenshot across the desk. My LinkedIn profile. My title circled in red marker. My company name highlighted. The concern specifically mentioned your family connections to businesses seeking contracts with healthcare providers. I forced my face neutral. What connections? That's what we're trying to clarify. She folded her hands. Professional. Careful. Do you have any family connection to Stonebrook Consulting? The trap closed around me. Deny it and look like I was hiding something. Admit it and confirm the anonymous tip. Rick had called them. Or had someone call for him. I told the truth without drama. My stepfather owns Stonebrook Consulting. The HR rep's eyes sharpened. And you didn't disclose this when the vendor file came across your desk? I just confirmed the connection this weekend. I'm reporting it now. I pulled out a document I drafted that morning, a formal conflict of interest disclosure, dated, signed, detailed. I'm recusing myself from anything involving Stonebrook, I said, sliding it across. I've already requested the file be reassigned. She read it slowly. Her expression shifted from suspicious to surprised. This is very thorough. I take compliance seriously. It's my job. She made notes, asked a few more questions, finally nodded. Thank you for your transparency. We'll document this appropriately. I stood to leave, my legs shaky. My director messaged me before I reached my desk. Come to my office, now. My director shut the door behind me. His face was tight with tension. Emily, why am I hearing about this conflict of interest from HR instead of directly from you? I drafted the disclosure the moment I confirmed the connection, I said, placing copies on his desk. I reported it through proper channels immediately. He read the document, exhaled slowly. Good. Because someone tried to have you pulled from the entire compliance initiative. Not just this vendor, everything. My stomach turned over. Who? He hesitated, looked uncomfortable. A phone call came in yesterday, from a concerned community member. They knew your mother's name, your stepfather's name, specific details about your family. Rick, it had to be. They said you had undisclosed conflicts across multiple vendors, that you couldn't be trusted, that you were using your position for personal benefit. I felt dizzy. That's not true. I know. That's why I didn't pull you. But Emily. He looked at me seriously. Someone is building a case against you, and they know exactly what buttons to push. That night, my mom called crying. Not angry crying, scared crying. Rick is under so much pressure, she said through tears. This business is everything to him. He feels attacked. Attacked. Because I wouldn't commit fraud for him. He says you're trying to ruin him, that you're sabotaging his opportunity because you're jealous. I stared at my apartment wall, jaw so tight it ached. I'm trying to stay ethical, Mom. Then help him fix it. Help him understand what he needs to do. You know this stuff. Guide him. I can't. It's a conflict of interest. You're making it a conflict, she said. Her voice cracked. You're choosing your job over family. I heard rustling. Then Rick's voice came on the line. You have one chance to make this right, Emily, he said. His tone was calm, reasonable, more dangerous than anger. One chance to be part of this family, or not. Rick showed up at my apartment the next evening, uninvited. I opened the door to find him standing there with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Can I come in? We should talk. I stepped aside. Old habits. He didn't yell, didn't threaten, just leaned against my doorframe like a salesman making his pitch. I can make your life easier, he said. I know people. People who matter. I could help you get promoted. Maybe even help you buy a house. You've been renting for years, right? Wouldn't it be nice to have stability? I blinked slowly. In exchange for what? He shrugged. Your name, your credibility, a little signature here, a little professional advice there, consultation work, completely legal. Except it's not legal if I'm using my position to influence decisions that benefit you. Nobody has to know the details. That's the beauty of it. He stepped closer. His voice dropped. Or, I can make you the problem at your job. I can make sure everyone knows you're difficult. Uncooperative, hostile to family businesses, someone who can't be trusted. The threat hung in the air between us. I'd been saving every text since New Year's Eve, every voicemail, every favor request. Not because I planned to use them, just in case I ever needed to prove I wasn't crazy. That this was really happening. I listened to Rick's latest voicemail again after he left, his voice jovial and cruel at the same time. You don't matter, Emily. You only matter when you're useful. So be useful. Or be gone. I exported everything into a folder labeled personal, backed it up to 3 different cloud services, receipts, documentation, evidence. The tools of my profession turned toward my own life. My work email pinged, a calendar notification. Stonebrook Consulting's contract was scheduled for final review tomorrow. Fast-tracked at someone's request. I checked the reviewer assignment. My colleague Jenna had been given the file. I sent her a quick message. Be careful with the Stonebrook file. Lots of gaps in the documentation. Her response was immediate. Already noticed. Want to grab coffee? Jenna met me in the break room, folder in hand. She looked nervous. Is it true your stepdad owns Stonebrook? She asked quietly. Yes. That's why I recused myself. She flipped through the packet, her eyebrows climbing higher with each page. This is a mess. Half the required disclosures are missing. The insurance coverage section is completely blank. I know. Why would someone fast-track this? I shook my head. Political pressure, probably. Someone wants it approved. Jenna looked at me, then back at the file. Emily, these gaps don't look like mistakes. They look intentional, like someone's trying to hide something. My stomach clenched. What do you mean? The service descriptions are vague enough that they could bill for almost anything. The oversight structure is basically non-existent. This is designed to avoid scrutiny. She closed the folder. I can't approve this, not without answers. Good. Don't. She bit her lip, but someone's going to be angry about that. Someone with influence. I met her eyes. Do it anyway. Sunday dinner again. My mom was playing hostess in full performance mode. Smiling too bright, laughing too loud, acting like everything was fine. Rick told everyone I was overreacting about simple paperwork. She's always been sensitive, he said, laughing. Takes things too personally, can't separate business from emotion. My half-sister watched me across the table, trying to decide who to believe. Rick cut his steak with sharp, precise movements. The problem with Emily is she thinks rules apply to everyone the same way. She doesn't understand how the real world works. He looked directly at me. If Emily actually cared about family, she'd stop hiding behind her job. Stop pretending compliance means refusing to help. My mom set down her fork. Her hands were shaking slightly. Emily, she said, her voice strained. Apologize to Rick, please. The table went silent. Everyone waited. Apologize for what? For having ethics? For not committing fraud? Silence stretched across the table. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it shaking my ribs. I'm not apologizing, I said. My voice came out steady, calm, not for doing the right thing. My mom's eyes filled with tears, not anger at Rick, at me, for making this difficult. Rick smiled like he'd just won something. There she is, the selfish one, the one who thinks she's better than everyone else. I don't think I'm better, I just won't break the law. Law? He laughed. You mean your interpretation of some corporate policy, your excuse to look down on people who actually work for a living instead of pushing papers. I stood up, pushed my chair in gently, grabbed my coat from the back. My mom stood too. Emily, wait. I love you, Mom, but I can't do this anymore. Rick's voice followed me to the door. Sweet? Poisonous. If you walk out now, don't bother coming back when your mom needs you. Don't show up pretending you care. I left anyway. 2 days later, my mom called from the emergency room. Her voice was small and scared. I slipped on the ice outside the house. My wrist is broken. Rick can't leave work. I need you. Old Emily would have dropped everything instantly, raced to the hospital, proven her love through immediate compliance. But I went anyway. Because I loved my mom. Because she was hurt and scared. The ER was crowded and cold. I found her in a curtained area, her wrist wrapped and elevated. She looked so small in the hospital bed. Thank you for coming, she whispered. I held her good hand. Of course. Through the thin curtain I heard Rick's voice, loud, laughing on his phone. He wasn't at work. He was here, in the hospital. But not with her. I peeked around the curtain. Rick was in the waiting area, pacing, phone pressed to his ear. Good. Keep her distracted. The contract closes Friday. Once it's through, we're golden. My blood turned to ice. At work the next morning, Jenna stormed into my office. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. Someone replaced the vendor packet, she said. All the missing disclosures? The blank sections? They're filled in now, like they were never missing. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. The system logs all changes. That's what I thought. She looked sick, so I checked the audit trail. She pulled up her laptop and turned it toward me. The editing history showed multiple changes made yesterday evening. Made from my login credentials, my vision blurred at the edges. I didn't do this. I wasn't even logged in yesterday. I know, but IT says the changes came from your account. My hands went numb. Someone had accessed my credentials, made changes to hide the problems I'd flagged, set me up to look like I'd approved a fraudulent contract. My director appeared in my doorway, his face tight. Emily, conference room, now. HR again. My director, this time legal, was on the video call. They slid printouts across the table, timestamps, access logs, system edits, all tied to my employee credentials. I didn't do this, I said. My voice shook despite trying to stay calm. Check my VPN location. Check my badge entry. I wasn't in the building. The HR rep's voice was flat, professional. Until we can verify that, you're suspended pending investigation. Effective immediately. This is a setup. Someone used my login. We'll investigate thoroughly. But until we have answers, you can't access company systems or property. My director looked uncomfortable, sympathetic but powerless. I gathered my things in a daze, walked out of the building I'd worked in for 8 years. Sat in my car and tried not to scream. My phone buzzed, a text from Rick. Told you, jobs come and go. I was at home, hands shaking, trying to process being suspended, when my doorbell rang. Jenna stood there, breathless and determined. I believe you, she said, and I have something. She stepped inside and held up a flash drive. I started taking screenshots of everything because the packet kept changing. Every version, every edit, time-stamped. Hope flickered in my chest. You saved the originals? Better. I recorded a phone call. She looked nervous. I know it's maybe not legal, but something felt off. So when I got a call from an unknown number about expediting the Stonebrook approval, I hit record. My hands trembled as I took the drive. What did they say? It wasn't what they said. It's who said it. She met my eyes. Emily, your stepfather said your name out loud. On the recording. We played the recording on my laptop. Rick's voice filled my living room, casual and confident. Emily's on the compliance team. She won't approve it willingly, so we're doing it through her account. People believe what's in the system. A second voice, male, unfamiliar, laughed nervously. That's risky. What if she fights it? She won't. She's too worried about appearances, about being professional. Rick's voice dripped with contempt. And even if she does, who's going to believe her? She doesn't matter. Nobody will protect her. The recording went on. Details about accessing my login, about timing the changes, about using the clinic board members' influence to pressure my company. I sat perfectly still, listening to him destroy me, plan it, execute it. Then Jenna leaned forward. There's more. He mentioned having a helper inside your company, someone who could get your login credentials. My mind raced. Who? He didn't say a name, but he said she's been useful before. She, an inside person, someone with access to IT systems or admin privileges. I emailed legal from my personal account, attached the audio recording, attached Jenna's screenshots, requested a formal forensic review of the system access logs, badge entry data, and vendor communications. Within 2 hours, the company's attorney called me back. Her voice was tight with controlled anger. Emily, this recording is serious. We're launching an immediate investigation. Can you come in tomorrow morning? I'm suspended. Not anymore. Suspension is lifted pending our review. We need your full cooperation. The next morning, I sat across from legal, HR, and IT security. They'd pulled my badge access records, my VPN login history, my physical location data from my work phone. The IT director looked grim. Miss Harper was nowhere near the building when these changes were made. Her VPN wasn't active. Her badge wasn't scanned. Someone else used her credentials. Legal nodded. We've identified the access point. It came from an executive assistant's workstation. My stomach flipped. Which assistant? They named her. Someone who handled scheduling and vendor communications. Someone I barely knew. Someone Rick must have recruited, or paid, or manipulated. The executive assistant was walked out quietly the next morning. Security at her desk. Personal, items in a box. No announcement. Just gone. The company launched a formal fraud inquiry. Contacted federal healthcare regulators. Stonebrook's contract was immediately suspended. I was reinstated the same day. My director personally apologized. You were set up, he said. We should have seen it sooner. I'm sorry. Jenna squeezed my hand under the conference table. You saved yourself? The receipts you kept, the documentation, that's what made the difference. That afternoon, my phone rang. Mom, she was sobbing so hard she could barely speak. Rick got served, she gasped. At the house, federal investigators, they took his computer, his files, everything. I closed my eyes. Mom. Emily, you have to fix this. Tell them it's a misunderstanding. Tell them he didn't mean. I can't. He committed fraud. He's gonna lose everything. He did this to himself. She cried harder, and I realized she still couldn't see it. Still couldn't admit what he'd done. I drove to the house, the same one where Rick had humiliated me on New Year's Eve, where my mom had asked me to apologize for having ethics. The living room looked exactly the same, but the power dynamic was completely different. Rick was pacing, papers clutched in his hand. His face was purple with rage. Your company is accusing me of fraud, he spat when he saw me. Tell them it's a misunderstanding. Tell them you made a mistake. My mother looked at me like I was her last hope, her eyes begging, fix this, save us. Rick stepped toward me, his voice dropped low and threatening. Fix this, now, or you'll regret it. I looked at him, really looked, saw him clearly for the first time, not powerful, not intimidating, just desperate. I kept my voice gentle, calm. Rick, I don't matter, remember? His face went blank. Then red. Don't you dare. You said it yourself on New Year's Eve, in front of everyone. I don't matter. I smiled slightly. So why would anyone listen to me now? My mother whispered, Emily, please. And I realized this was the moment. Choose myself, or repeat the cycle forever. I didn't yell, didn't humiliate him in front of his friends like he'd done to me, didn't make a scene. I just set my keys on the counter and looked at my mother with a sadness that felt clean and final. I love you, Mom, but I won't be used to protect him anymore. I won't break laws. I won't risk my career. I won't pretend his fraud is my responsibility. Rick started shouting. Promises, threats, apologies all stitched together desperately. I can fix this. We can work together. I'll make you a partner. I turned to him once. He said I didn't matter, so I stopped acting like I did. I walked out. The cold January air hit my face, sharp and honest. Behind me, Rick's voice rose higher. My mother's crying grew louder, but I kept walking. Got in my car, drove away from that house and that life. For the first time ever, my silence didn't feel like surrender. It felt like freedom. A week later, my mom texted, "He's gone, moved out, can we talk?" I stared at the screen for a long time, realizing the hardest part wasn't getting revenge. It was deciding what kind of life I would allow back in, and what I would finally, permanently, leave behind.